आरोहणोधिरोहश्च शीलधारी महायशाः सेनाकल्पो महाकल्पो योगो युगकरो हरिः Arohanaha, Shiva, who is the ascender, one who climbs, Arohanaha, thereby signifying the sadhaka, one who is still on the path climbing up the very steep mountains of spirituality. Arohanaha, Adhirohaha, one who climbs down. So he, the yogi, who climbs down from his spiritual peak to impart and bless us with wisdom. Adhiroha cha. Sheeladhari. Sheeladhari is one who has a lot of civility. Sheela is civility. Sheela, a person with a very amiable character. Sheeladhari. Mahayashaha. One with great success. Mahayashaha. Great kirti, great success, appreciation of people and accomplishments is Mahayasha. Sena Kalpaha, he who is the creator of Senas, of Sainyas. Mahakalpaha, the great creator himself. Yogaha, Yogaha, he is the union between the Jiva and the Jiva and Brahma, Atma and Paramatma, Yogaha. And that is actually the exact meaning of yoga, union. It comes from the word yujir. Yujir means to unite, to bring together two things. So it is, we say samyukta. Samyukta means two conjunct letters which have merged together. So yoga also means the same thing, which is a merging. Yogaha, yugakaraha, one who creates the yugas. Shiva creates the Chatur yugas and not just them, the Mahayugas, the Manvantaras, and the Kalpas themselves. So he is the uh, ordainer of time. Yugakaraha, Harihi. Hari is the dissolver. We have seen many, many times these very words repeated. So I'm just breezing over them quickly if I've already explained them elsewhere. And we have also seen numerous hints that Shiva actually is Vishnu himself and Vishnu himself is Shiva too. In both these Sahasranamams, there is absolute unity between the two, equivalence between the two. Even in the, I think the third sloka of Vishnu Sahasranama itself, it comes Rudro, Bahushira, Babhruhu, and somewhere else it comes Shiva, and so on. So Vishnu is described as Rudra and Shiva is described as Hari. Now uh, there is this interchangeability between the two tattvas, Shiva, Hara, and Hari. So Hari, Hara.
Amoga, I came across this word in Vishnu Sahasranama. Vishnu Sahasranama as well as Shiva.
Correct. Amogha. Amogha Pundari Kakshojita Karma. Correct. And that is also there present in this Shiva Sahasranam. Yuga Rupo Maharupo Mahanagahano Vadhaha Nyaya Nirvapanah Padav Pandito Hyachalopamaha. Yuga Rupaha, Shiva who takes on the form of yugas. So currently we are in the Kali Yuga, which is the Yuga of dark ages. The dark ages are called Kali Yuga. Kali means dark. And Dwapara was the Yuga where there was ambiguity. Dwapara means this or that, ambivalence. Is this true or is that true? There's a lot of gray area. So Dwapara. And then Treta Yuga meant where there was a clear distinction between the three, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The prohibited, the not prohibited, and that which is supported or encouraged by, endorsed by the scriptures. So Sukarma, Akarma, and Vikarma, where these were clearly, at least the people had a clear distinction in their minds of these three. Whereas the Satya Yuga is where there was only truth. There was a very clear-cut distinction between the truth and the false. there was no middle ground there too. So there was no gray area. So this is the origin of the names of these yugas. And Dark Ages, Kali Yuga, of course, means where not just is it too confusing to think about which is good and which is bad, but also the predominance of bad is more here, of evil is more here. Yuga Rupa, and in fact, Shiva himself has, in many times in the Puranas, supported that Kali is going to rule. Darkness is going to rule this yuga, and because of which uh, Shiva Nama Japa or Nama Japa of the Ishta Devata is said to be uh, the easiest path in order to evade the effects of evil. To constantly take the name and not just mechanically take the name, but also with intensity of love, depth, and devotion, to take that name is itself said to be the simplest, easiest, as well as one sadhana which is open to all. So it's an en masse sadhana. There is absolutely no restriction of the time, space, place, person, and so on. And that Shiva himself has endorsed. And one other thing is, he actually, and many of these saints have actually told how Shiva himself endorses the name of Rama. So he is actually the Rishi of the Taraka mantra. Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanane. This was actually told by who? By Ishvara himself, where he is explicitly endorsing the Sri Rama Nama Japa. And so I just wanted to make this point because in the Kali Yuga, he takes the form of the Yuga, that is as Kali himself, and he also therefore gives a measure, a counter measure to stay on the path of goodness, on the side of Dharma, and what necessary measures must be taken to do so. Whereas in the other yugas, it was not as easy. We have always heard of the rishis of Satya Yuga doing tens of thousands of years of tapasya, of Treta Yuga doing thousands of years of tapasya, in Dwapara doing hundreds of years of tapasya, and in Kali Yuga now it has come to decades. And we never know when that also gets reduced further. So this is how the powers of 10, I mean, they're just a mathematical way to quantify the depth and intensity of austerity which was necessitated for those particular yugas. And so he is that rupa, he is that form of the yugas and also the solutions to those. Maharupaha, he has a gigantic form, ginormous form. Mahanagahanaha, he who killed the great serpent, Mahanagahanaha. He, of course, subdued the Patala serpent Vasuki, and which is what made him to eventually put that garland of the snake around his neck as a symbol of complete power over the Nagas, over the serpents. And secondly, it also hints as to his equivalence with Krishna, because Krishna, if you remember, also defeated the Kalinga snake in the Yamuna river. So it can also be that it is referred to Krishna, Shiva equals to Krishna equals to Mahanaga Hanaha. Vadaha, one who slays, one who kills, one who eviscerates. Vadaha, Nyaya Nirvapanaha. He or she or it, Shiva, which bestows or sets in order the justice. Nyaya Nirvapanaha, one who sets or establishes justice in a society is Shiva. And that happens because Shiva is Dharma, is Satya, Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. And truth alone can set the justice. If untruth starts judging people, then uh, the society will drown in chaos. It will plummet into darkness. Nyaya nirvapanaha. And he also restores justice by the wronged. I mean, for the wronged people when they pray to him. So he actually comes as Shani. So Nyaya nirvapana is also another allusion to uh, Shani, because Shani is said to be the judge amongst the Navagrahas. So whether or not the human system of justice, the legal system delivers justice or not, Now, in fact, there is always this delay which is quite popular, which is in the Indian courts are infamous for its delay in delivering justice. And if at all it does deliver justice, I mean, no offense to the courts, but this is how human systems are. They are mostly flawed, and we are just trying to do the best we can with the limited number of resources and the limited number of posts, moral rules, with the enforcement power that we have, etc., etc. We're just trying to do some jugaad here and there. So ultimately, so what of those people who actually don't get justice through the human systems? What if the Raja, in those days, it was the Raja who would mete out justice? So, what if he doesn't actually ensure or enforce justice? What if he was an evil king? What if he was a dictator? So, all these questions are very, very valid, and they are very must be asked, and they actually naturally come so in any person's mind, especially of those who are actually wrongfully wronged. And so, what of them? It is Shiva who keeps the track of karma as Shani, and he delivers justice to them. But he does say it comes with a flaw that this justice may not come in this Janma itself. Perhaps it may come in another form. So, this is the only catch to this unbeatable, foolproof law of karma. And Shiva, being this very strict disciplinarian, ensures that justice is definitely meted out. All the accounts are cleared. Nyaya nirvapadaha padaha. And by the way, even the astrologers actually recommend Shiva worship to those who are suffering from such lawsuits and who are uh, unduly wronged. Many of these Grama Devatas, especially so in South Canara and the coastal regions, they have this very Ugra forms of Shiva, all these Panjurli, these Ugra Bhuta gods, who always are said to be very somehow magical in their appeal, as well as in mysterious ways they actually get this justice delivered. Many a times, even those who are suffering from these lawsuits are said to go to Shani Shignapur, right, in Maharashtra. But the catch there they actually say is that if you yourself are completely convinced that yes, you have done nothing wrong, if you have sure that you are actually on the side of dharma, only then must they go to such powerful temples. Because if I somehow through my selfishness want the other person to suffer, though he may have not done anything wrong, or though what he did to me was just an act of revenge or self-defense, etc. I do go to this temple, hearing to this astrologer, and do all these very lavish sevas. Then it's as though you have gone yourself to the executioner to get your head beheaded. So that is how Shani is. He has no mercy, a very ruthless judge. And that characteristic is actually endowed by Shiva. And Shiva's most prominent ministers are actually Yama, Shani, Chitragupta, and Prajapati. And of course Ketu and Rahu too. So all the seemingly the so-called malefic planets, as per astrology, actually are under the domain and reign of Shiva. Padaha, he is foot. He is so what does foot mean? So a foot is something which carries the entire body, which is used for locomotion. So Shiva is that energy which locomotes. Pradaha, Panditaha, and we have seen this definition of Pandita many times in the Bhagavad Gita. So Panditam Tamahu Panditam Bhutaha, one who has equanimity, one who has achieved an equanimous vision of life, a holistic vision of life is called a Pandita and not an expert, not a specialist. So if I have learned something to a great extent and superseded others in that domain of knowledge, I will not be called a Pandita. I may be called a Kovida, a Vidwan, but the true meaning of Pandita is one who has technically enlightened, but less mysteriously so, put in simple words, one who has an equanimous vision and holistic vision of life, one who has understood life in its true intricacies. Panditaha. He achalopamaha. Achala means a tree. I'm sorry. I mean, it can also mean a tree, but it actually refers to a mountain. Achala. We say Arunachala. Aruna Achala. So a mountain. Upamaha means one who is comparable to a mountain. One whose stillness, one whose sthirata, one whose sthirasthanu, we say. He is so still and so unbudging from his principles that he can be compared to a mountain. So a mountain allows people to tread over it, to walk upon it, but still remains unchanged. A person may mine something out of the mountain, some others may just offer worship and flowers to the mountain, but still the mountain itself never undergoes any hrasa or vriddhi, no degradation nor upgradation. अचलोपमः बहुमालो महामालः शशीहरसुलोचनः विस्तारो लवणः कूपस्त्रियुगः सफलोदयः. Shiva, of course, is garlanded by many things. Bahumalah. He has the garland of knives, of swords, of skulls, of snakes, of Rudrakshi, and so on. So he is Bahumalaha. Mahamalaha, he is the great garland himself. How? Because he is, or no, what do we use a garland for? We use it as a sign of respect. Now, why do we give a bouquet of flowers to a chief guest or in a function? Just as a mark of respect. So a mala is basically a symbol of respect. So he is the greatest symbol of respect. How? Because one who gives Shiva or Shiva Nama to others, of course, he who has, first of all, Shiva Nama in his complete control and has mastered it, will be able to garland others. Thus, meaning he or she can give diksha to others with this greatest gift of Shiva Nama. So he is the greatest mala, a sign of respect and sign of love. Mahamalaha. Shashi, he is this moon. Hara Sulochanaha. Sulochana is a person bestowed with great vision. Hara Sulochana, with great vision, means one whose eyesight can penetrate like an X-ray through people, through entities, through phenomena. Thereby, again, it takes us back to the Ajna Chakra. So, because he has activated his Ajna Chakra, it's just as putting on an X-ray machine. So, it can just scan through us, through our punyas, papas, our personalities, our hidden flaws, our secret fantasies, our fetishes, people's sins. It can just scan through the mechanisms of how the world operates, through the laws, the physical laws, the material intentions. All of that is completely just an open book before Hara, before the destroyer. Again, it takes us back to how having a complete vision of a phenomenon, of an entity, of a person, technically destroys our interest in it. That is why Hara Sulochana, a destroyer who has great vision. And why should a destroyer have a great vision? Or vice versa, why should a creator not have good vision? You see, to actually create something, we will need some level of faith. We will need some hope in either ourselves or our product or our service. I mean, just speaking materially. So let's say I want to be an entrepreneur and start a product, create a product. So I must first of all believe in it. So to believe in it means therefore to necessarily exclude all information which will not support or are against the building of that product. So for example, if I want to create, let's say, a car, and all things in the world, or I mean, most information in the world, the research is saying no, a car actually will pollute the environment. So it is not good to create a car. But I want to create a car. So I must necessarily become blind to that piece of information and therefore still engage in this false belief and hope of mine and believe in this car, so called my offspring, in order to even be able to create it. Is it not? So a person who has a narrow vision will be able to create something out of their own um, either willing blindness or unwilling blindness. However, once a person has a complete vision of everything, so the very famous example would be, you see, a professor of economics, of trading, of finance, himself never really invests in the market, in the stock market, because he has complete knowledge of the self of the market, the stock market. He knows the ups and downs of it. He knows what the consequences are. He knows even by day trading, by news trading, that somehow this market is going to rectify itself and I may end up in losses or some temporary profits. So this PhD in economics, PhD in finance actually will never get into trading. So that is one such example of being a harasulochana, of being a destroyer, of losing interest by actually observing completely. And in stark contrast is Brahma, who actually lost his entire head itself. He was blinded by his lust for his own creation. And that is how these two are actually antagonistic. Vistaraha. Vistara is mm, one who is very large, enormous. Vistaraha, one who is very expansive, like the ocean. Vistaraha, Lavanaha. Lavanaha, Lavanaha is, it also means one who is shining like a jewel, um, yeah, like a jewel, Lavana. It also means like a crystal. Lavanaha is like a crystal because he is as transparent, as innocent, and mm, all reflecting like a crystal. And why is he? We call him Bholenath, right? Because he's very innocent. A child, we say its mind is very pure like a crystal. Why? Because it has no intentions of its own. It is just merely mirroring its upbringing. It is only mirroring its the limited knowledge it has. So it technically does not know to manipulate. A crystal similarly has no intention of its own, no color of its own, no bias of its own. Therefore, it will just either reflect everything and become white, or it will become very completely transparent and just let light pass through. So he is that. In also in the sense that Shiva is the consciousness itself. So true consciousness never participates in any of our activities. Awareness never participates. It has no bias of its own. It neither has something called good awareness nor bad awareness. It neither has a mind of its own. So it doesn't literally only support the good thoughts. It equally illumines the bad thoughts too. So consciousness is also is always compared to crystal. Lavanaha, Upaha, he is the well, and again a water body. He is these shastras always love to associate Rudra and Shiva with many of our common occurrence. I mean, commonly occurring things around us. Upaha. Therefore, the next time we actually see a well, we should actually think that this is Shiva because he is providing us water. And when you look at the moon, Shashi, it is Shiva. And this shloka must come to our mind. Triyugaha, who is the three yugas. Mm, so three yugas here refers to the three kalas of time. Bhuta, Bhavya, and Vartamana. Past, present, and future. Three yugaha. Saphalodayaha. Saphalodayaha is the harvest which comes out of the land, of the produce, the agricultural produce. Saphala Udayaha. Udaya means coming up. Of what? Of Saphala, uh, of these trees, of this rich cereals, these plants, roots and shoots and fibers, all of that turning into fruition is Saphalodaya. He represents that aspect of those, yeah, vegetation too. त्रिलोचनो विषण्णाङ्गो मणिविद्धो जटाधरः बिन्दुर्विसर्गः सुमुखः शरः सर्वायुधः सहः. Trilochanaha, having three eyes. Vishannangaha. Vishannangaha is one whose anga, whose body or organs have become Vishannaha. Vishanna means which have lost interest, which have become depressed by Vishada. Give me a moment, please. Astu, we are just back. Vishannangaha, one whose organs have dissipated. I mean, they have literally lost interest. So that is what, or become weak. Vishannangaha. And that also refers to two things. One who has lost interest in the pleasures of the organs, I mean, of the Pancha Indriyas, or it also means one who represents the physically handicapped people. Vishannangaha. So if you remember, Shiva as Rudra is Vedically depicted as being the outlier of all the marginalized communities of society, while Vishnu represents the uh, actual parts of society. I mean, most commonly, he is used to represent the Purusha, which means the four sections of society, the castes and the Stree and the Purushas, the child, etc. Whereas those which are technically not uh, included or or have become second thoughts of inclusion of into society are technically put under the bucket of Shiva. So Vishannangaha, one who is uh, handicapped, specially abled. Vishannangaha. Manividdha, he is embedded by jewels. Manividdha. And how? Because he, of course, is the greatest king in his form as Sundareshwara. He had all these jewels on him. Jatadharaha, where's a jata, has a jata. Binduhu, he is that, if you remember from discussion of yesterday, he is called the Bindu and Shakti is called the Nada. Bindu, the singularity, the point. And even in maths, we can actually define a point. So in geometry, if you start the first principles, you can say a line is a collection of points. But if you ask the question, what is a point? Then there is actually no answer to it. Just as we can go into physics and chemistry and also ask the same question, what is a molecule? We'll say, yeah, it is a collection of atoms. But then what is an atom? We'll say maybe an atom is a collection of protons, neutrons, electrons. Then what is an electron? Right? So things have become, they start breaking down. These things that we take for granted, actually, we are able to do all of these science and maths and all usual economic policies, etc., based on very many assumptions and practicality. If you see, look at it very technically, because if you were to use deductive logic, where deductive logic means you start with a particular definition and then derive the rest of theories from it. But actually, if you look at it, science is not built that way, because if that was the case that we use deductive logic, yes, at some places we do use it. However, then the question of what is time, what is space, which are actually fundamental things, themselves remain unanswered. So when the building blocks themselves are unclear, how is it that we have built the building? How is it that we have constructed a building? So therefore, we are actually not using deductive logic there. Uh, we are using it in limited spheres of knowledge. Similarly, a point. We just take a point as an axiom, as something which already exists, as something which need not be defined, right? And then we do our the rest of procedures of deriving the axioms and so on. So this undefinable, that elementary particle or that elementary dot or that elementary bit of knowledge, that quantum of knowledge, that again remains very elusive to any field of inquiry. And that is Bindu, that is represented as the dot, the Bindu, which means that is Shiva. Visargaha. Visarga is the creation, which is an outburst, outspringing. That's the technical meaning of Visarga. V means outside, Sarga means to create. So something which has created from within and it has just sprung out. Visargaha. Sumukhaha, having a beautiful face. Sharaha, he has an arrow. He is an arrow, as in the arrow being very focused, very pointed. Sarvayudhaha, he wields many arms on himself, especially the Trishula. Sarvayudhaha. Sahaha. Saha means Sahas means he is very adventurous, very thrilling. In fact, those who are rebellious only can be adventurous. If you look at it very carefully, one who conforms to the norms of society of any rules is very boring. He or she is not really adventurous, because to be adventurous necessarily means to be willing to explore those paths untaken or less taken by society or by people in general. And of course, that this person who is adventurous will also naturally face criticism and ostracization in extreme cases by society, because he is willing to explore things which are beyond the smooth functioning of society, or so-called smooth functioning of society. So even these a Buddha is poisoned, you know, a Bhishma has to lay on the bed of arrows, and very recently Shambhaji was crucified and tortured. Now, why is that? Because these great people who are very adventurous, either materially or spiritually, they come as being threat to a society. Why? Because a society has to function based on certain unquestionable norms. So therefore, there are also some taboos. These adventurous, rebellious people, when they start questioning them, or at least even though their intention is not to go against society, but to actually just explore paths out of curiosity for themselves, the society will view it as being a threat to it, as an existential threat, and therefore will either punish it, criticize, punish, torture, or ostracize. So that is the nature of Shiva, of being rebellious, of being adventurous, sahas, to take up sahasa. And again, that very shloka of Shivananda Lahari comes to mind. Kim brumastava sahasam pashupate kasyasti shambho bhavat dhairyam chedrishamatmanasthitiriam chanyai katham labhyate भ्रश्यद्देवगणं त्रसन्मुनिगणं नश्यत्प्रपञ्चं लयम् पश्यन्निर्भय एक एव विहरत्यानन्दसान्द्रो भवान्. It says, Kim Brumaha, what can we speak, O Shiva? Tava Sahasam, you are so adventurous and so courageous. Tava sahasam pashupate kasyasti shambho bhavat dhairyam. And who else has as much courage, as much bravery as you do, O Pashupati? Atmanasthiti. And who else can have the stability of Atma, of oneself? Atmanasthiti, again, it takes us back to Sthirata as Shiva. Atmanasthitiriam, who can be so established and so comfortable in his own skin as you are, O Shiva. Atmanasthitiryam chanyaih katham labhyate. And who else is it even possible for others to get such great stability so as to be able to witness the destruction of the entire world and still be able to laugh in your own joy and revel in your own joy? So, this is the greatest adventure that you are participating in, Sahas. निवेदनः सुखाजातः सुगन्धारो महाधनुः गन्धपाली च भगवान् उत्थानः सर्वकर्मणाम्. Nivedana, one who is approached for doing Nivedana. Nivedana means Samarpana. We say Naivedyam or Naivedya, Nivedana. It means one who is offered something, one who is the object of all people's and all prayers is Nivedana. Sukha Jataha, he who is born out of Sukha, thus implying the Sukha means orgasm, I mean the pleasure of orgasm. One who is born, which means a fetus or of a zygote, which is born following an orgasm, thus signifying creation. And this can also mean the supreme joy which first precedes creation, the process of creation. So when Shiva and Shakti actually merge together, there is immense ananda which has happened, and from that ananda is born Brahma, the Hiranyagarbha, the first egg, the zygote, from which followed creation. Sukha jataha, Sugandharaha, Gandhara, one who is from the Gandhara Desha, Sugandhara, one who is also very beautiful. You know, those people were said to be extremely fair and extremely beautiful. And Kaikeyi, incidentally, was also from Gandhara, and even Kunti, not Kunti, sorry, what's her name? This blinded woman was also from Gandhara, Shakuni's elder sister. Does anybody can recollect that name? The wife of Dhritarashtra? Sorry? No, the wife of Dhritarashtra. No, not Manthara. No, in the Mahabharata, the wife of Dhritarashtra, the mother of Gandhari, so of course. Gandhari, exactly, correct. Correct. Hmm. Gandhari, correct. What's her name? Saulabhi. Ah, okay. Correct. Sulabha. Sulabhi. Saulabhi. Okay, okay. Anyhow, so they are very fair, very beautiful, and very pretty. He represents that beauty. Sugandharaha Mahadhanuhu. He, of course, wields the Shiva Dhanush itself, which is said to be the heaviest uh, Dhanush there is, and which was the Dhanush that he actually crafted in order to destroy the Tripuras. Gandhapali, who protects Gandhas, one who uh, carries Gandha, that is, it can also mean Vayu because air carries fragrance or odors. It also means he who is the protector or the father of Ganapati, because Ganapati again, like we have discussed, is associated with Gandha, with Prithvi Tattva, and he protects that. Gandhapali, Cha Bhagavan, he is the great god, Bhagavan. Utthanaha, he is a pedestal. Utthana means a pedestal. So he sits on an altitude, with an altitude, thereby putting him above everybody, both in terms of power as well as being able to see things very clearly, which is why we are called I mean, such people are called Udasinaha. Asinaha, one who is seated at the top, Udasinaha. And that is why they are respected more, because they are able to see things more unbiasedly, more clearly, and have a more holistic vision there as so as to take some decisions while sitting at the top, which is why this entire system of hierarchy in corporate or otherwise in government comes, because when they are literally sitting at the top as a CEO, as a CXO, you are participating in major decisions. And that is because you have a wider view of a particular organization. You are not just there for the money, you are not just there from 9 to 5, and therefore you are open to all sources of information, and hence your decision, your responsibility is going to affect others. So you are called an udasina or utthanaha. Sarva karmanam. He is also the source, the creation, the source, the creative source of all action. Sarva karmanam utthanaha. It is from him that all karmas spring forth, spring up. Sarva karmanam. And where do all karma spring from? The desire to do an action itself is Shiva, is what is being referred to here. Sarva karmanam utthanaha. Manthano bahulo vayus sakalas sarvalochanaha talastalah karasthali urdhva samhanano mahan. Manthanaha. He is the great churning. How? Because it is only through churning. You see, wind, when it churns, becomes a hurricane. When water churns, it becomes a whirlpool. When fire churns, it becomes a star, a volcano. When earth itself churns, it becomes a sand dune. You see, soil becomes a sand dune. And when sky of course doesn't churn, but when sky churns, it means gravity is being affected, and this is how the universe is said to have been born. So when all sorts of churning, all sorts of um, admixture of alloyification is all Shiva. And it is also the churning of the mind. You see, what we are just participating right now is just mental gymnastics. It's just the spiritual gymnastics. We are engaging in churning out of information, churning out of expressions. Why? Because through churning, it is believed, though hala hala also comes, it is also believed Amrita will finally come. So for both these sakes, Manthana is inevitable. It is indispensable. It must happen. So Rudra, in his form as the churner or the great churning, is said to cause havoc in the path, but that is said to be necessary to clear out the path for new things to happen. So the great churning must happen in the mind, where all philosophies, all thoughts, good, bad, and evil, are all raked up. And that happens only when we actually, like Shiva, are very courageous to delve into ourselves deeply without any judgment, without judging ourselves and without getting attached to any particular stream of thought. If we were to look at ourselves and participate in this great churning, yes, in the beginning, lot of bad things, bad samskaras, ugliness in our own character will spring up, is what it is told. And finally, Amrita also is promised to emerge. So he is the Manthana. Bahulaha, he is the plurality in the word. Vayuhu, needs no explanation. Sakalaha, he is everything. Sarvalochanaha, again, he who sees everything. Sarvalochanaha, does as Sakshi, as the witness consciousness, and also as this figure, this God figure, because he is looking down upon his own creation, its own creation, very holistically, without leaving any stone unturned. He knows the ins and outs of everything. Sarvalochanaha. Talaha, he is the ground. Talaha as Bhumi. Talaha, he is the rhythm. Talastalaha, a very nice alliteration here. Talastalah, Karasthali. Kara, in his hand, he holds a sthali, a plate. And this refers to a very nice incident where, Shiva, as you all know, killed, or I would say rather slayed one of the heads of Brahma. So Brahma actually used to have 5 heads at the time of his creation. But then he got so attached to the creation that he actually did that one of his heads got stuck, and that constantly admired its own creation, Brahma's own creation. So it's like an artist who creates a painting and he gets stuck to that painting. He doesn't go ahead and create anymore. Nor does he stay back from a detached perspective and look at his own creation from a detached perspective. If he gets so involved, he will always be admiring it, even if he has painted it ugly. Right? So Brahma, in such one of his moments in his kalpas, he created this universe and got so attached to it that his one of his heads stuck with the creation, and so it would lust after its own creation. So that is metaphorically actually told that Brahma lusted his own daughter, but that is not actually the truth. It is that here Saraswati or Savitri or Sati here actually refers to the creation itself. So it is actually a very metaphorical story which people have taken it so to such ugly extents that they are saying no, Brahma first participated in incest. And these Christians and Muslims especially, they make the best use of this story in order to convert others and create false information. It is not so. It is a metaphorical story which I just wanted to clarify here, that Brahma, the creator, fell in love with his own creation. That is the entire metaphor being used here. So, and therefore, when his head got stuck, Rudra, of course, wanted to bring back balance, because a creator who is engrossed in his own creation will not be able to participate from a detached perspective, which is what Brahma's role was, to create further and to take feedback from its own creation and improve and improvise. But because he stopped doing that, Rudra had to bring in balance and remind him of his own mistakes. So he meted out justice to creation also, because creation also was getting really upset that its own father was too in love with it. So becoming too possessive over it. So Rudra chopped off the head of Brahma, the fifth head of Brahma, thereby teaching him a lesson to not be so attached. Um, and and then because Brahma also was a very powerful entity, the chopped off head of Brahma, which Shiva just removed from the bunch of five heads, that head actually is said to have stuck to his hand and become transformed into a plate. And this plate became a begging bowl. And suddenly Shiva got hungry. That was the curse of Brahma, that may you always be hungry. And this Shiva, who was the supreme lord of all austerities, who would not even consume air, this great yogi suddenly became very hungry, and this he had, and as a sign of being a beggar, that begging bowl always stuck with his hand, on his palm, and all other gods started making fun of it. See how, to what such a despicable level Shiva has come to, that he has to now beg for his food. This supreme so-called yogi now is roaming the streets of earth like a mere mortal, begging for his food. And then that was also how comes to Kashi, what is today Kashi, and he comes to Shakti and begs for food from her, from his wife for the first time. And because he always used to be engaged in his own tapasya, so it was always Parvati who was in a lower position, so to speak, because in this power dynamics, when a person does not have desires, he will naturally have the upper hand, right? So, for example, as a buyer, you are let's say of a property, you must always necessarily be a little more humble, more sycophantic than the seller, because the seller now has the upper hand, because he is in a position to give away stuff. He does not have attachment to that property anymore. So he can set the rules. He becomes the boss. Similarly, here in this case, Shiva, because he had absolutely no desires, he had the greatest hand, the upper hand, while Parvati seemingly had the lower hand and was in less in power. But now, when Shiva, for the very first time, knew hunger, knew what it means to be a mortal, knew what it means to actually have to beg, to actually engage with the world and do stuff. It was the greatest hit to his ego too. And so he actually uh, comes back to his wife, who sits there as Annapurna, and begs for his for his meal and for his first meal actually. And Annapurna Devi, with a smile, actually serves without telling anything. And that smile itself meant a lot of things to Shiva, and he realized that what actually it means to participate and involve with creation, what it means to be an extrovert, what it means to uh, be a human, to be a living creature, what the struggles of that creature, etc., are. So he also smiles back, and they live happily in Kashi as Vishwanatha and Annapurna. So there he is called the Karasthali, one who has a begging bowl on his palm. Karasthali, Urdhva Samhanano Mahan. Urdhva Samhananaha, he who uh, Samhanana means a collection. Samhati means a collection. Urdhva Samhanana means one who collects things and keeps them up. What does it mean? It means so he is maintaining our accounts, Urdhva Samhanana, in a ethereal sphere. So it is removed from the material sphere. So therefore, we cannot actually grasp such concepts through our logic, through our senses, and they have been kept uh, 8 inches above the material sphere. So even if we were to travel the galaxies, we will not be able to find where exactly this Swarga is, where Naraka is, where Punya, Papa, etc. are stored. So he is the one who stores things up, not in the go down, but go up. Urdhva Samhananaha Mahan. He is the great being. We can stop here. Let's continue for the next 5 verses from tomorrow. Hopefully, I will pick up the pace and try to finish it up before next Tuesday. Let's see how it goes. Yes, any suggestions, remarks, inputs, please go ahead. Any observations? Seemingly, the class has become quieter. I don't know if it is that people have understood things or whether they are completely out of the loop.
It's interesting. So sometimes at my end, I might be very noisy, and so I just keep myself quiet. And
Hmm.
collective participation is definitely an advantage. I think that like one of evening class adult group Sanskrit this one was conducted in this one and and at Guruji's place. So there the Sanskrit Pandit used to come and teach us, and he used to tell the best way of learning, what are the different way having components which makes us more effective in learning. And in that, can I just continue to the survey boring?
No, no, please go ahead, ma'am.
So, 25% participation because each one of us would have understood the same point angles. So collective information makes us to understand the same subject in multiple perspectives, thus opening up our views wider about the subject. And the last one is manana. So this is how they said, and from then onwards, of course, we were childhood, we were just, then later after knowing this, we started participating in the so that's why I just taught myself. So I'm eager to share certain things or questions.
Right, right.
Hope
No,
this will to rest of our beginnings.
definitely, please engage in discussion. I mean, this is completely welcome.
Thank you. And one point, actually, what I remember, even the Google also says Kapala, right? Fifth head being chopped off. Uh, by Shiva. In one of the first by elders, third ones are otherwise in the Nritya Natika. I remember that because it was a Brahma Hatya, uh, actually the skull cap says that it will be fixed to your hand and it will ask you to fill in that skull itself. It's not literally Shiva being a skull, hungry and then eating. He has to beg for that skull, and where the skull will be taking, and it gets emptied immediately. So he keeps begging, and once the people who are the source of food for that skull reduces at that time. Annapurna, Gauri Mata goes to Vishnu and gets this one, solution, and she actually feeds the skull. This is one Drishya I remember.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay. I mean, I'm not sure, then I may be wrong, but this is very interesting.
That
Thank you.
that particular Shanatika, or otherwise during a Shivratri, our Guruji has said that way. That skull, that's why they call Brahmahatya Mahapa.
Right, right. Okay, makes sense. So basically, that skull fell off after Annapurna Devi fed him. I mean, put. Okay, okay. Thank you. Very interesting. I didn't know that.
Sir, and Kashi, Annapurna as well as she's also called as Kashi Vishalakshi Devi.
So yes, she is known as. I mean, actually, there are two different temples. Vishalakshi temple is different, and Annapurna temple is different, I think. But you can
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong. So Vishalakshi actually is like a more older deity before Annapurna Devi. So Vishalakshi is like somehow I think the Grama Devata perhaps I'm not sure. But Vishalakshi is actually technically the Shakti Pitha actually. So that is one of the places where even the part of Sati fell. However, Annapurna Kshetra, I don't think that is actually one of the Shakti Pithas. Please correct me, I'm not sure.
So I've been Kashi and last time was so I just wanted to clear clarification. Generally, they say Kashi Vishwanath and Kashi Vishalakshi. And again, they say they talk about goddess Annapurna also. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Anybody else who knows that answer exactly? Are they two different or are they same? Do they have the same origin story?
Google AI says yes, Annapurna and Vishalakshi are both the same for the same goddess.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I remember Annapurna Devi's this one in the movie is in Amritashila, White Amritashila. Yeah, I might be wrong.
I see. Okay. Okay. Let me get anybody else? Huh.
Kashi, they the guide who is no, not the guide. Actually, I've been to a shop to buy bananas starting. So there, that person is telling me that Annapurna's temple it's only open yearly once, and that too during the Diwali day.
Hmm. Okay.
And they give some keychains and all there, which is very auspicious. He gave me one. I've kept it in my wardrobe. And he says it's a very auspicious, it's an auspicious theme chain which not everyone is blessed.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I shared that picture of the chain which he was giving me.
Please do. Yes.
He says it's very auspicious.
Hmm.
And he told me that साल में एक ही बार यहाँ पे उसका दरवाजा खुलता है माँ अन्नपूर्णा का पूरे साल में नहीं खुलता है
Hmm.
and he gives food puja and all there during the Diwali time.
I see. Okay.
All the people who give there for all these saints and all, no, business people who give there for puja and all that, they give them those key bunches, it seems.
Hmm.
Last year also, in a year, I've been twice to Kashi. Last year in March and again this year in January. Before Mauni Amavasya, I was there. We wanted to go to Prayag, but we could not make it because there was stampede the very next day. We were there on 26th in Kashi. From Kashi, we wanted to go to Prayagraj. Then it so happened that early morning we got near to stampede and we cancelled our going to Prayagraj. The day morning we took Ganga Snan there in Kashi. And then we did this Tilakna to our Lingams. Then I had taken the mud from Rameshwaram. I put it into Ganga and carried the water from there. And to put that water in Rameshwaram to make my pilgrimage complete. And in the evening, just in 1 hour, we had twice the Kashi Vishwanatheshwara.
Oh,
Same
okay.
day, all these things happened. So I absolutely had no regrets of doing it.
So,
I was really blessed there that I would do it.
fantastic. Very interesting. Thank you. Yes, so there's a chat in the meeting. There's a slight correction. While both Vishalakshi and Annapurna are aspects of the same divine mother, they are considered distinct deities, with Vishalakshi as the presiding goddess of Varanasi and Annapurna as the goddess of food, both associated with the Shakti Pita. I see. Okay. Is there any particular source for this information, Usha ma'am?
I'm just googling it as and when we are.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just gave a question accordingly. There are both are same, and it gave two days.
Okay, okay.
And Vishalakshi is considered to be one of the Shakti Pita. I'm just trying to identify which part of Devi Mas this is over there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay, Vishalakshi, the name who has the last the eye fell.
Yeah. So is it the eye of Sati which fell? So anyway, I think it must mean the eye.
Sati Devi.
Okay, earring.
It is generally regarded as the most sacred temples dedicated to Hindu Divine Mother. The earrings of Goddess Sati were said to have fallen on the holy spot of Varanasi.
Okay.
So Vishalakshi Temple is known for its temple festival in Kajali Teach. The third day of during Bhadrapada Masa, August.
Okay, okay.
So the state tradition.
Very nice. As to any other questions? Okay, if there is no, we can wrap up. So tomorrow there will be a class, by the way, even I know it's a Saturday, but let's just continue and finish off the 153 shlokas.
So you told that the well is considered as Shiva.
Sorry?
The well is considered as Shiva. Well, when you think of well, definitely.
Well, Kupa, correct.
Shiva. So is it one of the reasons that we do Gange Puja? Anything when we are starting with anything good, we do Ganga Puja.
Correct, correct.
So is it connected something like that?
Perhaps. I mean, very plausible. Yeah, because he had Ganga on his head, and yes, Kupa. Very plausible, yes. But thank you for sharing all of this information about Vishalakshi and so on.
Thank you.
Can I add one more point to?
Yes, please do.
Generally, they say, as you said, Wherever there is Shiva, wherever there's a Buddha, there is Shiva. Vice versa. Any form of this one is there. Water source is there, which where the source of the water may not be visible. It is said to be even they. Of course, it's a controversial. I don't know if many are interested in that. Even Taj Mahal is a Tejo Mahal. Actually, the third floor of beneath there is a well, and which is unexplained. I told it's only explained in our Sanatana Dharma, and there's a Shivalinga over there, and the water keeps dropping on the linga. And people are not actually, they're not allowed over there. Of course, the time only it is allowed
Where exactly is this, ma'am? I didn't hear it.
Taj Mahal is actually
Right. Yes, it's true. Hmm.
yeah,
There are some sections which are prohibited from entering into the common place, and even for experts, I think.
in those days, even every temple used to have, I mean, well, even if the entire region may not have the well water source, there used to be well. Water was dedicated for the puja and all.
Hmm.
So obviously, when Taj Mahal has a well which is actually closed, and all, apart from that, those wells actually were also a source of hiding the treasure.
Right. Okay.
That's why even in Somnath also they had a lot of treasure.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Somnath has its own other. This one actually, that Somnath is having a radioactive feature.
Hmm.
Radioactivity feature, and actually it was actually rotating. It was not tower. It was not actually fixed on the floor.
Hmm.
Floating.
Correct.
Gauri or somebody had many times attacked it. And and later I think he destructed or something other he did, and he took certain part of it and then went. But over there with lot of mantra, shakti, and also lot of bilva patra and all, they had kept it like as we have been explaining. Shiva is the Agni, Agni, he's Panchabuta, but has the heat, sorry, right? So it was radioactive as well. That kept it in with a lot of our Vedas procedures. So once he took the part over there, wherever he came from, in the West Asia or the origin, after a few months or a couple of months itself, he died in a mysterious way. It's all because of the radioactive reactions.
Wow. Okay. I mean, this is bone-chillingly mysterious. Yes.
Yes. Again, it's like if we have many of us are secular, then I'll stop here. I have a few more information.
Yes, please go on. But can we just continue with the discussion tomorrow? Is it okay?
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll share with you the Prakashi, that case. Because it is a very sensitive information. I don't know whether all can take it. I don't want it to be taken as a secular, communal thing, but as a seed, I just want to share.
Surely. No, it's not for that. I'm just running late. I have to get somewhere else. So I'm just. It's not at all to do with the content of what you wanted to share. Definitely, we will continue. I mean, this is completely a very free, open group. Secular or not, I mean, we go according to what the truth and evidence is. So, correct. So we don't really care about secular or not. So we'll just continue with this discussion. I'm just running late. That's it. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Dhanyawad.
Dhanyawada.
Dhanyawad. Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Kedar.